Osiris with the ark and the pillar. Here is the ark, the pillar, and the serpent, symbol of the wormhole that dwelled within that pillar. Soil. So that as we're walking along the soil of southern France, we're actually putting ourselves in tune and in touch with the key pieces to the puzzle of the Book of Love, which takes us to this place, Rennes-le-Château, France. A mystery right here. It talks about Jesus walking with the disciples through the cornfield. Now, when they talk about Jesus' dreams, remember the cornfield, the interdimensional portal? Why else is Jesus in the cornfield with the disciples? I think it's a metaphor, a symbol for the doorways. So this parchment in Latin tells all about the Jesus in the cornfield with the disciples, but then in the and there it is. And very few researchers tread into the ground of this parchment because it seems just so utterly bizarre. Others say it's just a total fake, and you don't want to pay attention to it anyway. The blue apples, again, are the whole secret of Rennes-le-Château, the secret of the Cathars, the secret of Ea, and are again represented on this church on Berenguer Saulnier's library. When he gets all this massive amount, terrible is this place, is a phrase that comes from the book of Genesis. When Jacob had laid his head on a stone, and he saw a ladder that reached into heavens. And he went up this ladder, and he came back down, and he took a look around, and he says, man, this place sucks. Okay? Well, that's not exactly what he said. What Jacob actually said was, terrible is this place. This is none other than the gate to God, and this is the gate to heaven. Which is why Fans, Pahana, Masua, and Messiah share the identical symbolism. Cut and paste. The egg, the trail of this key piece, 681. The silvery key of the Anunnaki, and I found a group of Western medical researchers that are using it to treat cancer, AIDS, and leukemia. Problem is, they don't have a delivery mechanism. Marijuana made an ointment out of it and stuck it in their ear where the blood vessels are closest to the skin. The silvery key piece of mystical rebirth and enlightenment seeped into their blood. The blue apples are in the blood. And it brought healing. Here's a shunt that's made by this particular research organization that is using this element, again, to treat cancer, AIDS, and leukemia. See, after the crucifixion, you end up with the blood of Christ, which is something to be worked tools for Stargate construction. Bits, genes, neurons, and atoms. And the reason I feel that these are actually the original teachings of Ea is because, look, we're talking about a culture, a civilization that came from elsewhere, ending right here beside me. There could be a microphone, an invisible microphone right beside you, an invisible camera. Jimi Hendrix's godson could be here playing guitar right beside you in a nano world, and you wouldn't even know. It's an example of what scientists did. They made this little stick figure by rearranging atoms. Here's a depiction here of using instruments available at a nano lab at MIT. Researchers can observe. They also tell us that there's two types of strings. Strings with a clockwise vibration that live in a 10-dimensional space, and strings with a counterclockwise vibration that live in a 26-dimensional space. You think, you got problems with DNA, or rather the knowledge of these symbols. The clockwise spiral, since the beginning of time, has represented water, power, and energy. The counterclockwise spiral is the Egyptian hieroglyph for thread, string, which resembles a fetus. And when you get a little bit closer, you see that supporting the symbol are the two strings. M theory is something else that applies to this search as well. M stands for not only mother, but it stands for missing, the mother of all theories. It also stands for matter and mystery. Scientists tell us that, again, that 9/10 of the main questions of astronomy, but also for spirituality as well, because if we can get a hold of these blue apples as they pass through our body, if we can see them, we can begin to or witness the birth of a black hole, i.e. a wormhole. And this is what it looks like. It's a giant eye buried underneath the ground that is designed to see neutrinos. Something about these tiny particles will tell us everything about the universe. They symbolize the down neutrinos with the letter V. which is kind of interesting because in a moment, whenever you get into the research about the goddess Mary, and when you look into the story of Jesus, you find that there's an enormous mystery about the arrangement of the letter OVO that appears on the face of these goddesses. Here's another example from Syria of bandied about by researchers into the Shroud of Turin. What they have found is that there's 14 different markings that appear on the face of Jesus in the Shroud of Turin, the alleged face of Jesus, rather. One of the most curious is neutrinos to understand the secret of the blue apples and how to perceive the ultimate secrets of God, the secrets of light. Our universe starts with a tiny dot, it becomes a line, it becomes a plane, and then it becomes... It's a Necker cube, right? Yeah, very good. What else is it? Anything? Okay. What would the science teacher tell us this pen really is? Well, what he'd say is it's a collection of atoms, molecules, it's energy and emotion, all brought to life in our imagination, and down and bring them into our being. So I want to thank you very much for sharing this time with me and allowing me to share this information with you. With some of the time left, I'd like to entertain any questions that you might have, or if I can clarify. I would appreciate it if you could...
As meaning the gene of Isis, there was something put into our pineal gland by the Anunnaki that is all related to the blue atlas. The pineal gland is actually crystals, literally in our brain, or stones. The blue is another explanation.
Mm-hmm.
I know why they're blue, but it's too much. Power is up to our pineal.
Yes, sir. Would you mind standing up and...
You're familiar with Fulcanelli?
Yes, I am.
Yes. And you know of the chapel for the two Marys in North...
Singing classes, he used that G symbol
Right.
to rechannel geopathic energy.
Neat.
And when he went to
As above, so below. So the G's the galaxy, but also
if
tunes
there's
the...
a geopath that's entering your home,
Mm-hmm.
he would bury this G symbol on a plate in the ground. So that as the energy came in, it would be trapped
Neat.
in the symbol.
Wow.
When he went to South America, he saw that. I went to an acupuncturist who could see in astral vision. And he said the problems in my body had to do with gross energy, and he worked with finer energy. So he sent me to a Malaysian Qigong worker. I went to her for 3 months, and she just did laying on of hands kind of work. And in the very last session, she was able to see to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So she could see where the energy was, so she knew where to place the crystals. And then after having raised my energy over the 3 months, it was then at a high enough frequency that the energy would start racing around from these little conductors. But
Right.
if the person couldn't see, and the energy of the body hadn't been raised sufficiently, that wouldn't do anything. They'd just be rocks lying on you.
Wow.
And
Can I get her question?
I just have one more point.
Okay.
And there was a relief that you showed several times where there was the figure standing there, and then there was his pillar opposite him. And there was like a little snake-like thing that went between them, but it seemed to be coming from the forehead, which made me think of the silver
Story, and ran it through the Bible code, and came up with the words America, Stargate, Nashville, and all kinds of other words that fit with this story. So I'm starting to look at... Yeah, the term apples actually came from France with that parchment that says blue apples. But the story is that the French said, forget about apples. We'll symbolize them by a cluster of our I believe the Stargate of wisdom, and I can't see that. I'm sorry. Let me get to another question. Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, William, I'm new to this, and I enjoyed your talk. I'm wondering, is there some way to incorporate what you've told us,
It could bring more compassion into your being and bring awareness that there's a lot more going on in our world. Yeah, Ivy.
What about France? Are we going to be seeing and experiencing some of this stuff in France?
Yeah, what we're going to do when we go to France is we're going to start out in Paris. We're going to go to Saint Denis. We're going to physically look and see and feel and touch what happened there with Abbot Suger. We'll walk the labyrinth at Chartres Cathedral, go on down to Rennes-le-Château, look at the church, absorb the mysteries there, drink some wine, and
everything you're saying is very connected with what's going on politically right now.
well, that's another 3 hours, but James won't mind if we just take off on that. Just very quickly, Nebuchadnezzar, as she said, cloak that the goddess Mary was wearing here with the Shigura helmet, they enter this fiery furnace. They come back out. Not only are they in pristine condition, they're not alone. The Son of God is in tow with them. It's well known and well documented. And so it's like what they're doing is playing a game here that Nebuchadnezzar or terror might have certain parts of the secrets, but the ultimate parts are going to be withheld. And in my research, what I'm trying to look for is evidence that his grandfather, but in this case George W. Bush, was set up by his father. And so Saddam is warning his people, saying history is repeating itself here. Genghis Khan, George Bush, and his son, George W. Bush, are back in business in America. And what they're going to do is they're going to set up Iraq, destroy it, and rebuild it. But the problem is that Genghis Khan's dynasty did not last. They were destroyed within 70 years. So, I'm sorry, so when you were asking that, I was listening to her other question. Yeah, one more question. Yes, sir.
The axe or the key or the substance you said was in the ground?
Yeah.
In the cannabis or the grapes and what is the substance?
You have to go to France and I'll tell you. The reason I'm saying that is because I know what it is, and there's some researchers in England that are also working with it that are putting it into a form that will be accessible. And so I don't want to say what it is because I don't want you to go out and get some on your own and hurt yourself, which you will do, which could happen. But these folks have got it in such a manner that says, hey, this is new and important information. And then I start getting some emails from a couple of different Irish researchers. First group says, we think your methods are pretty unorthodox. We think you're full of it in this area here. You're dead wrong over here. And where do you get the secrets of Ea? But I can go to Tara in Ireland. And we're going. So I said, look, I've got a radio interview coming up on Coast to Coast AM. What I would like to do, with your permission, is invite anybody that would like to go with me to begin traveling up your spinal cord system. And just imagine now that it's not just one blue apple, that it's literally millions of tiny blue apples that are beginning to flow up your spinal cord, bringing with them a cleansing and purifying energy. And allow that energy to keep building and building and building until it's almost like a fire hydrant of energy that's moving up your spinal cord system. And now as that energy moves through you, what we want to begin to do is unfold as if we are a flower. And the way we do that is by lifting our arms up over our head, and then we put our palms out flat. And now we are in a prayer posture that Moses used when he was battling the Amalekites and wanted to channel the Holy Spirit. He put his foot on a stone. His brother Aaron held up one arm, and a companion named Hur held up the other arm. And together they were in a prayer posture the Egyptians called the return of the Huron, or the heron, the bird of light. And as you stand in this prayer,
he came last night in my dream again, a magic and mysterious man. He smiled at me and he took my hand. He spoke no words, but I could understand, leading eye to